Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Welcome to the AV Experience with myself and Jonathan. What is happening, brother?
Hey, not too much. It's good to see you. It's been a couple weeks.
I know, man. We have been traveling. We had Audio Advice Live a couple weeks ago. I was up at Atlanta Home Theater, just got in late last night. I think I finally pulled in about 1:30 or 2 in the morning. Ryan's flight, he was at the airport with me and had some bad weather up there. And so his flight got delayed. My flight got delayed. And it was funny because I'm looking at um, my phone and I didn't really see a notice saying that my flight was delayed. And he's like, your flight's going to get delayed. I'm like, dude, I'm still on time. About an hour, 2 hours go by and I look at my phone. Let me just check. I went, oh, dang, it did get delayed. It got delayed like 2 times. But the cool thing is it was perfect timing, man, because we got up there at 2:00 and both of our flights were about 7-ish, 7:30. So we know we were getting up there early, but we were going to go. And my daughter was, she was on a pool tournament team in Gainesville.
Yes.
And they did really well in their local tournament, and they won an all-expense paid trip to Vegas for a big tournament there. I guess it's called APA. So the past 6 days, her and her team have been in Vegas playing this pool tournament. Like every day they play 2, 3, 4 games or whatever. There's almost 600 teams in this tournament.
Wow.
My daughter's been playing for a year and a half, and their team ended up being numero uno last night.
Wow. Out of 600 teams.
It was phenomenal, man. I'm sitting here watching her at the airport, and that's what I mean. Timing was perfect because we had all the time. I mean, we had like 6 hours to kill. So we're watching each one of their teammates go up, and I'm like, this is unbelievable, man. It was just so incredible to see my daughter doing something that she just apparently loves. I used to play pool when I was young, just recreationally with some fellas, but oh my goodness, man. So, but they walked away with $20,000 for
Wow.
their team. So that was really cool. And just the fact that I'm just telling you, man, as a father, man, I was almost about to cry. I was so excited for her.
Yeah.
She just kept her composure so well. She was playing, I guess they rank them.
Yes.
So these are amateurs. So she was a level 2. She was playing against a level 3. And the way they do it to keep it fair is, let's say she had to get 19 balls in, and they had to get maybe, I don't know, 24 balls in or something like that. So the coach gets to pick who goes up against who. So like this round, okay, they'll put Naomi in, and the other coach says, okay, we're going to put such and such in. So they kind of do it after each round they figure out. And so the very last one, Naomi was next to the last. It was so cool just hearing the commentators are like, yeah, Naomi's a nursing student. And they were just so kind. And they were booting people in the comments because some of them were saying, just not for just her, but just any of them. They're like, oh, a 12-year-old person from this country could do better than these guys. And they're like, dude, this is amateur. This isn't professional. These are...
Sure.
They're just getting into this thing. They're complaining about why are they using carbon fiber sticks when they're amateurs. It's like, who cares what kind of sticks they're using, man? Let them play and have fun. But they were just so kind, and so they're booting people that were just being unkind and stuff. But it was just cool, man. But the last 2 people that played, she was, I think, a 2 playing against a 9.
Whoa.
She had to get like 25 balls. He had to get 75 balls in. And she beat him. It was awesome, man. And it was funny because they're like, this is a David versus Goliath. I'm like, go David. It was just fun, man. It was cool to watch that. So, but yeah, it's been crazy, crazy busy couple weeks.
Who sponsored her team to go to Vegas? Was that just a local business or something?
Yeah, I don't know how that worked. Like who did that, but I'm assuming they probably covered their flight and hotel. They probably had to cover their food and everything, but she's been FaceTiming me and stuff. And yeah, He says, when it comes to girls, usually I'm the 2 against the 9. I get it, Bruce. I get it, man. So cool, man. Well, we're going to hang out tonight. We're going to talk about really just answering you guys' questions. So if you got questions, drop those in the chat. We'll hit those in order that they come in. Of course, super chats always get priority. Definitely not required, but you're welcome to do that. Ryan, his flight got completely canceled last night. So it's almost, I was boarding my plane. Goodness, it was close to midnight. And I started to I think I was in the air, and he's like, man, my flight literally got canceled, like totally. So he had to go find a hotel. And so he got very little sleep last night, probably an hour or 2. So he said, man, he said, I'm toast. He said, he said, I can join if you want to. I said, man, get some rest. And so he and I may do a live stream tomorrow night, probably the same time, 8 p.m. And we'll just talk about specifics of what we experienced at, well, I guess probably Audio Vice Live 2, and then the event we just came back from, which was Atlanta Home Theater. So that was fun. I've been posting a little bit of teasers on Facebook and also on the channel. Jay Cameron, Atlanta was awesome. Like I said, we'll share more details about that tomorrow, because it's always weird, me and Ryan, if we're talking about, yeah, man, this was awesome, and Johnson's like, I wasn't there, man, so it's all good. All right, well, we'll kind of go in order here. And then Jonathan, if you see any, feel free to star those.
Sure.
That'll definitely help. Let me say hi to some folks. Geotech's in the house. Joe, good to see you, buddy. Finster, Mark Fox is in the house. Josh, good to see you. Chris, Peter, Billy, Chuck, Michael, bunch of folks in the chat. It was interesting, Jonathan. So I did an impromptu live stream. So I normally don't do, normally this is my live stream. We got a nice microphone. We got good camera. I'm there at the event, and one of the guys like, man, we should have live streamed this, like they were talking, he works for Atlanta Home Theater. I'm like, I technically I can, I've got a phone, and I don't do it very often. So I got my little gimbal out, went live on it, and I ended up doing a live stream for an hour. So if you guys are interested in looking at that after we get done tonight or maybe tomorrow, watch that. I thought it was really cool. I literally went through every room of Atlanta Home Theater. There was a ton of amazing cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. There was a McLaren, some BMWs. Dude, they had them all. I'm like, YouTube ain't paying me that well. So, yeah, Justin said that Lambo was amazing. It was weird. It was silver, but it had, I guess, the way the light reflects off of it, it literally looked like a rainbow. It had blues, purples. Yeah, it was crazy cool. So yeah, man. So cool. So Finster, Tyler, honestly, I'm good. So I just tried to get enough sleep, man. So I came home, I crashed. Like I said, I got to bed about 2:30. Got up, went to church this morning, came home. Or actually, my dad and my stepmom invited us out to lunch. We went and grabbed lunch with them at Chili's. Then we came home, and we usually keep my grandson on Sundays. So he's 7 months old now. So we got him here and playing with him for a while. And eventually I was just like, Jessica, my brain is shutting down. So I took me a little couple hour nap, woke up, and I feel good now, man. So everything is good. But yeah, traveling, I've got 2 more events coming up. I think next week. Yeah, next week I'll be going to Scott Newby's house in Illinois. And then 2 weeks after that, it'll be Cedia. And then that's all I got for the most part.
Scott's house, he's going to have like 50 people there or something, I heard. Right?
It's going to be insane. So if you guys don't know Scott Newby, he's got what? How many does he have now? Like 17, 18s or something?
I don't know. It's like every time you kind of hear about him, he's had another JTR 4000 ULF in there.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It's insane.
Did he hit his target? Was he after 150 or 155 dB?
Yeah, his goal was like 150. I think he's hit it. I think he's at like 154. Oh, it's pretty bonkers, man. Cool.
So for the majority of that, you aren't listening anywhere near that, right? It's kind of just fun, and then no. Crazy for a second.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand. This is his thing, man. very few people ever want to go that level. And it's similar to the guys in car audio. They do it because there's a goal. And his personal goal, he just wanted to hit 150 dB. Honestly, he wants to have the Guinness World Book of Records for the loudest home theater. And so I go there with my earplugs. And the first time I did it, I had earplugs in, and it's insane. It's intense. It's definitely similar to car audio. I mean, man, it's pounding in the room. You're feeling it. And then he added some more, and I went up another time. And that time I had the earplugs in, and it was so loud. I literally cupped my ears with the earplugs in, just going, okay, I want to protect my hearing. And so this year, I don't know what I'm doing. I may bring my, noise canceling headphones. I don't know what to do, man. Might have to get those lawnmower headphones those dudes wear.
I need some 30 dB attenuation muffs or something on top of foam ear pads.
So it's pretty wild, but yeah, it's not one of those things where we're listening to long periods. It's a quick demo, and you're just grinning from ear to ear because it is a crazy.
So if newbies pursuing the Guinness Book of World Records, I don't know where that lives today, but I watched on YouTube not that long ago. There's some sort of Russian group that made their room into the subwoofer box. Like their home theater room is inside the subwoofer box, and there's all these driver magnets like all around the place. Yeah. And he's hitting levels that are shredding paper in his home theater. So they have paper flying around and it's shredding itself. It's like
what?
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
It's wild. So newbie's got a little ways to go, even if he hits his target, I think.
That's hilarious. That's funny, man. The paper shredding subwoofer.
Yeah, I mean, you're in there in that room where that's happening. That can't be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tyler, glad you've been enjoying the content. So I made quite a few videos at Audio Advice Live. Started filming some of those when I got back home. I still have a few more to do on that. I think I even have 1 or 2 videos I need to still edit from M-Wave, and then I'll probably end up doing some type of recap video of Atlanta home theater. So definitely glad you're enjoying that. Definitely it was short notice. Again, tonight we got home and was keeping my grandson. Johnson's like, "Hey, I don't see the stream." I'm like, "That's because he just left. I got to get it set up." So
here we got a clarification now.
Yeah.
It jumped a little bit. Let me go back here.
Yeah, go ahead.
There we go. 7 cap ULF 6,000. Nice. He says 6,000, not even 4,000.
Yeah, he got the upgrades, man. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah, check this out, man. So Chris says Jonathan plus Atmos speakers appears. So you've been making some changes in your home theater, right?
Yeah, and I'm learning some stuff as I spend more time with it. As you might recall, for the M-Wave tour group, I had just got the room finished. Yeah. I hadn't had a whole lot of time to listen yet. One thing I've realized, and some of you guys know, so I got another set. Let's see if I can get it here. These are the front, right? So now I have six ceiling speakers. The gotcha is that if you have 6 ceiling speakers and you're now not centered between the 2 like I was, now the center of the Atmos sound is behind me.
Right,
and it makes a noticeable difference when I'm sitting in this MLP. So I think I'm going to try to rig it up. You know how the Denon and Marantz have a speaker set of 1 and 2, a speaker preset 1 and 2.
Correct.
I think what I'm going to do is set speaker preset 1 to be a 4-channel ceiling, and that'll be when I just have the front row, or the primary of the front row. Speaker preset 2 will be all 6, and that'll be if all 6 seats are being used.
Yeah, if you got a bunch of people in there, that's a cool idea. That makes sense.
Because I mean, it really, like I've had this room like this layout for quite a while with just 4 ceiling speakers, and I've never felt like the soundstage was moved behind me until I got the last 2 speakers. And now I'm sitting up here, I'm listening to a lot of the same demo clips, kind of like going through some of my favorite movie stuff, and I'm like, the whole thing has moved backwards.
Yeah.
And so I feel like either 1 or 2 things need to happen. Either I need to move these front 2 that are up here off camera forward like 2 or 3 feet to kind of offset it, which is an option, or just do the speaker config checkout each time.
Yeah. See, they're excited you're going to be talking tonight, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to go through, I'm literally just reading through these as we're on here. Yeah, cool. So I had a chance to meet some of you guys at both Audio Advice Live as well as Atlanta Home Theater. So definitely, that's always cool to me, man. And I've shared this many times on the channel. this 5-year journey that I've been on YouTube has been amazing. And I love the gear. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I just had a chance to hear a 50-inch subwoofer.
That was a fun video. I watched that little video.
Blew me away, I'll be honest. Because, I mean, I'm looking at that initially, a couple years ago when it first came out. And I'm thinking, come on, man, that's ridiculous. Who needs a freaking 50-inch subwoofer? That's just for show, you know? I mean, that's overkill. It's insane. I'm going to do a dedicated video, and I think that the title is going to be something like, oh goodness, large subwoofers are slow. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on that experience. You know, were they slow? Because we get this impression that only, 10-inch drivers or maybe 12-inch drivers can be quick and, dynamic. And when you're listening to music or movies, and dude, it was crazy. The thing was moving that far. And it was pressurizing this room like crazy. We played fast music, like double kick drums, and man, it was intense. And those black swans were pretty stinking remarkable.
That picture was funny, or the video was funny, because the main speakers looked awesome. The left and right, had those giant horns on them, and beautiful looking speakers. And that subwoofer just dominated the entire front soundstage. Like, it was so big.
It was interesting though. But what was kind of interesting too is I saw Will Klein. He's with McIntosh Group and Sonus Faber. So he went in there for a demo, and he's the gentleman, the kind of like dreads, and super cool guy. I love Will, man. His passion for especially music is phenomenal. His knowledge and his vocabulary is cool. Just when he talks, just got a really cool vibe. But man, he's grinning ear to ear, and he's like, "That was sweet, dude. Like, that was amazing." But we had so much fun in that room. You can just see the people's smiles. Like, this is like, you can't make that up. This is genuine excitement. But what's interesting, if you notice, that horn is kind of oval. It wasn't a circle. And we were talking to Jeffrey from Ascendo and Heinzel, and he said basically because it's shorter, they're controlling vertical dispersion. So that it doesn't hit like your ceiling and doesn't hit off the floor. So that just allows it to be a very, a lot better refined sound. And Wisdom Audio does the same thing. They've got a wide dispersion, but the vertical dispersion is limited so that you don't get those added reflections.
So,
but it was super cool, man. Yeah. Oh, there you go. So Bruce says I can get my daughter to be my pool shark hustler to buy some new gear for my theater. I love it. Speaking of new gear, I got a new projector coming.
Which one?
The NZ8.
Oh, nice. Is this a new edition, or is this a review sample?
This is a new edition. So I've already sold. I put my NX7 up for sale to Patreons. I always add that first there and give them first dibs. And had one guy say, "All right, I'm buying it." And then he ended up looking at the throw distance requirement. He's like, "Dang it, I don't have the throw distance to make that happen." And so he ended up backing out. And so I gave it like another few days, and I listed it on my YouTube channel. And literally, I think 5 hours, somebody sent me a Venmo. They're like, "Done." So I'm going to get that shipped out probably on Monday. And then the new one arrives, I think, on Tuesday. So really excited. Actually, yeah. Oh, and I bought, it's not an expensive meter, but I bought a light meter. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Which model is that? I can't read the box.
It says MT912. It was kind of like the Amazon recommended. It's probably like $30.
Sure.
So it's definitely nothing high end.
I don't have a whole lot of experience, but I bought a Dr. Meter light meter fairly recently.
Okay.
And I had another one here at the same time. The Dr. Meter had a finer, more precise number. They were two cheapies, another like couple $30 ones, not the same one as yours, but just more of the same. Yeah. They're within a one lux off. So they're probably close enough for what we're doing.
I just figure the biggest thing is if it'll measure consistently, at least, then when I measure one, I measure the other, at least I can see kind of what the difference between the two are, even if it's not 100% accurate. Because I have no desire to get into like massive measurements on projectors. I'm just curious, like, was there a significant boost in output, in nits?
So I have a recommendation for you on that.
Yeah.
Is your NZ8 brand new that you're buying?
Yes, brand new. Yep.
So
and my NX7, I just put a bulb in it, so it only has 18 hours on it.
I know you say you run everything at 100%. Like that's your philosophy, right? Your projector bulbs and your laser.
Yeah. Right.
So measure it at zero.
Laser, but yeah.
We'll measure it at 0 hours, and then keep that recorded somewhere, and we'll try to use that to see how much your laser dims, just out of curiosity. So right when you open it up, get a measurement on that thing.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that idea. But just remind me later on, say, hey, Michael, it's been 6 months.
Sure.
Next podcast, measure it this week, and let's kind of look. And yeah, I can definitely do that. That's a good idea, because we don't know right now. They kind of tell us they stay pretty consistent over time, and that's one of the benefits of going to lasers. But I don't know if anybody's really ever done any testing on that. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't have a light meter the time mine was new. I should do it with my Epson now. Even I got about 350 hours on it. I guess it'd be as good time now to do as any.
For sure. All right, I just saw a super chat come in. Let me hit that one. Joe Wires, appreciate the super chat, man. Any experience with Panamorph? Will I really gain 20% brightness without losing the crystal clear image? Great question. I have seen some people that have used Panamorph lenses on theirs, and of course their website says, I forget what percentage, but yeah, there's something like 20-25% increase, what they claim. But I don't have any way of measuring that. And again, I just bought my first light meter. Jonathan, what about you, man?
Yeah, first off, 20% brightness isn't going to be very noticeable. You expect it would be, but I'll put it this way. I think if you left the room and came back in, Joe, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between and not, because it's just not something our eyes pick up. It's sort of noticeable. We've done this in different projector comparisons. You'll see like, oh, this one's 20% brighter than this one, and this one is 40% brighter than that. It's such a slight difference each time that it's very minimal. Now, the losing crystal clear image, you're only really going to notice that if you're looking at like PC text, like say you pulled up a Microsoft Excel document on your computer monitor and on your projectors and instance. We've talked about this before. One of the guys local bought that and had that exact same question. It isn't as crystal clear because now you're going through 2 lenses. So you might have a little bit of distortion on a single lens. You're just adding that little bit more distortion. So you're just getting a little bit less clarity. How noticeable it is, like on real world content, you'll probably never notice a difference. But if you're looking at real fine test patterns, you are going to notice a difference. It's also going to add a little bit of a pincushion effect, which means the outside of the image are going to be a little bit more distorted than the inside. And the only way to fix that is to have a curved screen, which hardly anyone has. So realistically, you are trading a little bit of clarity for a little bit of brightness. I think over zoom works pretty darn well these days, so I would start with that. I would try that first, Joe, and see if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Jonathan. People have said that they get an increased brightness. There's definitely some benefits, but for my theater, I chose not to go with the Panamorph because at the time, I think I had a $2,500 projector, and a daggum lens was probably about that. So I'm thinking, it's the law of diminishing returns with pretty much everything in this hobby. To gain a little bit, you got to spend a whole lot more. Whether it's SPL, I mean, think about Scott Newby. We're talking about his system. For him to gain a few decibels, he pretty much has to double amplification. It's like, man, that's a lot just to get a little. But some people see that and they go, absolutely, it's worth it. Some people may go, man, I'm going to get 20% brightness, and it might not be super significant. Like, I really don't think that the NZ8 is going to be total night and day, difference. I don't think I'm going to be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I ever used this piece of trash NX7. The NX7 is a beautiful projector. I love it. There are times that I wish that it was brighter, especially for HDR content, because I'm shooting it on a 150-inch screen. That's a big screen. I'll throw this caveat out there, Jonathan. You'll appreciate this. So we had a chance the day after. So we did the Atlanta Home Theater on Friday. On Saturday, we were invited by Alex to do some comparisons. And it wasn't like A-B comparisons. It was just more like, hey, we're going to set up the Christie Griffin in the big theater room. They had another Christie. I don't remember the model number there in one of the other ones. We had the GTZ 380 that we could look at. And there was a client that was wanting to see them you know, to figure out what direction he was going to go. And the Christie Griffin, dude, they fire that joker up. Now, this is a monster. If you guys have ever seen the GTZ 380,
it's big too.
It's big. This thing's twice that size. It's a monster, man. And they fire that thing up, and Ryan's like, I got to get my meter out. So Ryan, what meter does he have? Do you know? It's like the real expensive one.
No, I don't know.
This thing is like, it's a square, and he's sitting in the primary listening and viewing position, and he's measuring up there. You know, he's not going up to the screen. It's crazy. But he hits it. He's like, you got to be kidding. He was hitting 500 nits.
Wow.
At 75% brightness.
Wow. That's getting close to OLED territory, or at least, you know, a little generation or two old OLED.
Oh my God. When we were watching Lucy, you know, and it turns, she's sitting in the chair and it zooms in, it's all white. We're like, whoa.
Yeah.
I got like a little sunburn, I felt like. It's insane, man.
Well, all right. So here's a question. I've heard this repeated on the forum ad nausea. There's such a thing as too bright for projector. Is that your opinion?
I think so. Yeah. You don't, and that's the thing. Like, there's no reason to run that projector at 100%. No reason at all, unless maybe the
screen
was twice that size. Yeah, you may have to, but it's all screen dependent. I think you probably want, and I don't know what that number is, but I think you want something that's comfortable. You don't want it too bright. Just because it can doesn't mean you should, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would agree there. I could not see running that thing wide. Like, that was pretty bright.
Right.
But you know, they could drop it down a little bit and still be totally fine, man. But the Christie is definitely by far the sweetest projector I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've seen the Barco Nord, and it was okay. I wasn't like, oh my goodness. With the Christie is like, dang, this is nice. But you're talking, I mean, it's over $100,000 for the Griffin. And I think the one above that, which is the Christie Eclipse, that one's probably around $400,000. I mean, so again, I'm totally cool with my, my lowly JVC projectors, you know. I can definitely do that, but it was phenomenal.
Well, so the room must have been pretty blacked out, or was it a good room to watch that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that room, it was designed a long time ago, I think. I would love to see them, and it's just real decorative. It's real fancy, like chandeliers hanging everywhere, kind of thing, and then these round columns. And
so, did they kind of have the lights on then? Were they just showing how bright the projector could be more than showcasing?
We did. Actually, I think when Ryan measured that was with all lights on in that room. It was, like I said, it was off the chain, man. It was crazy. But yeah, so we were just looking at, the guy was looking at real world content. So they put up the quick dog, whatever that, you know, graphic with all the tech on it.
Quick brown found.
Yeah. So they put that up there and showed patterns, and they're, you know, checking that out because he's pretty into it as well. Let's look. Yeah. I'm just going through. Yeah, like I said, Jonathan, if you see any of these, man, tag them. It's hard for me to think and read and tag at the same time, for sure. Let's see.
Kind of cycle film here too.
So good question here, Travis. He says, didn't read anything in regards to the Arendal 2S sub at M-Wave. Anyone have thoughts who attended? So I was able to be in there during the subwoofer comparison. We had 7, I think, subwoofers. The Arendal, there was a JTR, GSG, the new Klipsch 1600 SW. There was the PB16 from SVS. I think an ELAC. What else am I missing?
I don't remember.
There might have been 1 or 2 more. All I remember is the top 3. I don't know where the Arendal kind of placed in that. So we didn't really have that one on display like in a 2-channel setup because, you know, for the most part, M-Wave is a home theater event. So we didn't really, you know, other than the subwoofer comparison, you didn't have a subwoofer. You had the towers at your house, right? The
That's
monitors.
Right. I still do the 1723s, and I like them.
Yeah. Honestly, we haven't had even a chance to talk about that. What has been your experience? Because I was really limited on the amount of time I had with those two. So, and we get asked almost every week, like, "Hey, how do the Arendales sound?"
So they're really neutral, like peaceful speaker. I've really just listened to them upstairs so far. I'm planning to bring them down into my home theater and place my left and right in my home theater and kind of give them more time. But I've listened to them on and off upstairs, just kind of the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Where we had them for the M-Wave home theater ticket guests, the premium ticket holders, the couch was too far back. You kind of need a golden triangle for those to sound their best. So if you check a chair and you kind of sit in the middle, they sound really, really good, kind of like relaxing your chair good. I don't think they call the attention to themselves. They're not bright. They're not overly bassy. They're a very neutral, like get out of the way and let the sound just come through as it is speaker. I like them. I mean, they're an impressive speaker.
Yeah.
I have not done any compression tests with them yet. That's still part of my goal, is to kind of see like, all right, how loud do these go before they start getting into a little distortion? I'm not going to go crazy. I don't want to blow the drivers, but you can kind of get a means of that, response and just increasing it 3 dB at a time, kind of see where they start struggling a little bit. I want to see that.
Yeah.
And then I just ultimately want to like listen to some music down here. It's just some stereo music in my normal environment that I'm very used to, and kind of get a feel for it that way too.
Yeah, sure.
Initial impressions though, very, very nice.
Cool.
And then unboxing them. I don't know how that sub unboxed. I didn't get to see that, but the unboxing of these things, it's like they give you white gloves in the box. It has like the best quality foam you've ever seen. That's super thick, and everything's like custom laser cut to make that. It's the closed cell foam, like the real nice quality foam.
Right.
I mean, it just looks. It feels like you're unboxing something that you can't afford from the very get-go. And they're not. I mean, they're expensive, but they're not like outlandishly expensive.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So you're not talking $6,000 for a pair. You're talking a couple $1,000s for a pair.
Yeah, and they have a nice like paper, high quality print paper brochure in there. Like it gives you the feel like this is a really nice quality product even before you open it. Nice magnetic steel grills, almost like if you remember the SVS subs, how they have those magnetic steel grills. That same style on these Arendals.
Nice.
The drivers look good. They look good with and without the grill. Like it's an overall premium product feel and experience and sound.
And I know this is even kind of random, but I even like when a brand uses quality binding posts on the back. I didn't get a chance to look at those. What do they look like?
Very high quality, super high, super thick, super big, like nice gold finish with the little cross plates that kind of connect. If you wanted to buy a wire or you didn't, they have the nice little cross plates. Like it's just the whole thing is just a real premium experience.
Cool. Yeah, on the Martin Logans that I've got, the F200s, the back, they've got these really nice binding posts. And I don't know, to me, that matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, it just gives you this impression that, okay, they're just not throwing stuff in there. They want something that looks good. Now, is it going to make a difference in sound? No.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, man.
You don't want the little red and black push box terminals that are plastic that you.
I don't. I have no doubt I don't want that, But yeah, man, appreciate it. Hey, Danny, appreciate that, man. He said he missed us. Yeah, we've been busy. Lots and lots of traveling. This is kind of interesting. Somebody mentioned about a subwoofer. I haven't unboxed it yet, but I just got in a Shure subwoofer.
Yes.
The VTF, I think it's VTF 15.
I bet you'll like that. I mean, you're going in reverse order on that thing. That was, and I've said it on another podcast, but that was the very first subwoofer where I was like, wow.
Yeah, this is nice.
Back in like 2011 timeframe or something.
Yeah.
Now you've experienced like 150 dB at Newbie's house and all that. So it's the wrong direction, but it's still a really nice quality product.
Well, and I guess here's the thing too, and some people, they'll watch my channel. Okay, so over the past years, I went from a Panasonic projector.
Sure.
8,000. Then I went to another one, a nicer one, the 4,000. Then I went to the Epson 5040. Then I went to the NX7. Now the NZ8. And so some people look at that and they go, "Oh man, he's just he's getting out of my league." I still love to celebrate quality components. I reviewed some Polk speakers that I really liked, and they're super affordable. I mean, to me, it's not about the amount of money that we spend on this hobby. I've always tried to encourage you guys, do with what you can and what you have and what fits your budget, what fits your space. Don't worry about like how much you paid for it, man. If you've got quality stuff that you enjoy, That literally is all that matters. And so that's why I can get something in that isn't as extreme as what I've heard, and still be able to go, guys, this is a nice subwoofer. I mean, we can look at the measurements and it's hitting down to 20 hertz. That's fantastic. Is it going to hit 5 hertz? No, it's not. But I can't expect it to, being, a much, cheaper subwoofer, smaller subwoofer. So I try to, as best I can, when I review a product, I review it on its own merit, not comparing it to something else that's better, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And that way you can celebrate it for the things that it does well, and you can critique it in the areas that it doesn't do well, Let's see. Yeah, Newbie needs 750 inch subs. No, he doesn't. Because Newbie's crazy enough to crank it up, man. I mean, this guy, he's just something else, man. All right, so this might be a question here. Bruce says, I'm renovating my room, and currently I have Oro 11 speaker layout. So he's got 5.1 times 2, voice of God. I'll now have room to do more standard 5.1.6 or 7.1.4. Which do you guys think would go with, what should he go with? Room's probably the same size as Youth Man. So my room's 13 by 19. So in my room, I chose the 714, and I think that is completely ideal. I don't see a need for 6 in my room as far as Atmos speakers. And I like having, I don't know necessarily if my rear surrounds are as great. Now, before I upgraded to JTR, they definitely weren't ideal because they were wide dispersion and they're up pretty much too high. They're mounted above my door, but that's just room layout. I don't have the ability to bring those down any further unless I put them real close together, and then you defeat the purpose of that. So I chose to mount them up high, angle them down. But now that I've got coaxial drivers, so they're much more specific. So I hear them more than I did previously. So my vote would be, I like 7.1.4 for my size room. I definitely don't see me benefiting really from 9 channels on the bed layer. And I really don't see much benefit from my size room with 6 speakers. Now, Jonathan's got a much bigger room than I have. I mean, my room's 19 deep, but think about this. The effective space that I have where the sound is, my front wall is 4 feet thick. So that's where my screen is. So effectively the room where people are at in the room, that's only 15 feet deep. So to be able to put 6 Atmos speakers above 15-foot area, that's not really, I don't think that's super conducive.
Right. I think
how big is your room?
I agree with you in full. First off, my room's 24 foot deep. And about 18 foot wide at the narrowest point, which kind of asymmetric and expands out going that way. Especially with one row, I mean, I mentioned earlier in this podcast, with one row, 4 does super well. And probably if your rear wall's close to that rear thing, it would probably translate from the second or the middle, I guess, in just 4 speakers would be the rear tops, the top rears. It would transfer the rear speakers just fine. After having 6 speakers, I don't necessarily think in my particular room that it's necessary. Like I need to play with sitting in the back row and just have 4 and see how that is, how that correlates with this, because the speakers, the rear 2 kind of split the difference for my rear, so that's nice, and the front 2 kind of split the difference for my front 2, and I thought that would be good, but it really hasn't. I don't think it's really improved the sound on the main listening position to have 6 ceiling speakers. So I vote 7.1.4. I do think front wides benefit me in my room.
Yeah, you got
the angles, it fills out an empty spot, and I've noticed quite a bit of Apple Music and Dolby Atmos that uses those wides, and they're fun. I enjoy them there. But 7.1.4 of those 2 options.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you there. So, and again, that's just opinion. You got to kind of figure out what works best for you and your setup. But again, it's kind of a law of diminishing return. But the biggest thing is, if your room doesn't dictate, you need, the biggest thing with Atmos is you need angles. There's certain recommended angles that they want. And so if you do the math, if you figure out, okay, where do these need to be, and figure out, okay, now if I add another set of speakers in between them, are the angles going to add up? And if they don't add up, it's not ideal for you. You'd better, I've always said let's just say, for instance, a properly set up 5.1 system is going to out trump an improperly and poorly set up 7.1 or 9.1. Adding more speakers isn't going to necessarily make your room sound better. I'd rather just do it right and put the speakers where they need to be versus just adding more just for the sake of adding more, thinking you're going to get something,
I saw in the comments that Mark was asking for a little bit more elaboration on like what kind of content I noticed isn't so great with 6 speakers. And I'll give you a little bit of specifics. Just sitting up here and watching some movies with my family, listening to some of the Apple Music Dolby Atmos stuff that I've had on my playlist for a year at this point and really know quite well, stuff we've listened to in tours. What I don't know and what I need to experiment more with is, for a while they were talking about if a Dolby Atmos track is pressed and it's not like true objects moving around, and it's 7.6 will compress down to 7.2 basically. So at that point, only, let me get my finger in the right place, only these two would be active.
Right.
And so you would have 6 speakers up there, but it's really just knocking it down to just 2. If you have your receiver configured for 6, that's what happens. If you have your receiver configured for 4, then it plays in a press track to all 4. And if you have it to 2, it just plays to the 2. So if you're 6, you're actually worse off than if you're 4 because it compresses it down to 2. I read that over the years. I didn't really know whether to believe it, but I have my suspicions that's exactly what's happening. Because there's times, like I'm familiar with some of my music, and there would be audio playing, like a guitar riff or something would happen on the speakers that are actually in front of me.
Right.
I would hear it. I would look up. I would know that's exactly what it was. Now I'm hearing that same guitar riff with 6 speakers. I'm hearing that same guitar riff in this speaker. And so I think I need to stand up there and listen and see what's changed. But I know these tracks really well. I've listened to them dozens of times. They don't sound the same. So 6 is changing it in some way. I don't know if that's because they're like pressed music or what, but I have more experimentation to do. So that, Mark, is what I'm talking about. Like where my soundstage just all moved back. The back of the room is more lively now than overhead, is what it amounts to. And there's also the gotchas. I kind of talked about this to the home theater guests. I used to just take my calibration mic, I'd put it right here in my lane listening seat at ear height, and I'd put every speaker at 75 dB. And that's how you calibrated the room, right? Yeah. You use the receiver test tone, 75 dB, Bob's your uncle, you're done. Can't do that anymore. If I put those rear speakers at 75 dB, they're 2 foot over that head. This at 75 dB, it makes that person get blown out by the ceiling speakers. Yeah. So now you've got a little bit of playing around to do, like some choices to make. Do you attenuate those speakers a little bit, lower their SPL level so you don't blow out that person? Well, then you can lose that effect of the main listening position. So I think that feeds back to that speaker 1 and speaker 2 preset. I can kind of have the best of both worlds if I take that path.
Yeah. Dude, I love JD, man. He's like my ultimate hype man. I always say I'm the hype man at events, when I go to Audio Advice Live, especially M-Wave, man, I get excited. He's super cool, man. So JD, I think he's 17, so he's a young guy. I appreciate him being here. I love seeing the young fellas because Jonathan, I mean, let's face it, man, we're getting older.
We're getting older.
So bringing these younger guys on and teaching them and helping them and getting them passionate about home theater, man, that pumps me up.
Yeah.
So we got quite a few questions here, so we'll hit these and kind of keep an eye on some of the other ones that come through. He said he's almost 18. Awesome, brother. Let's see. Okay, so you talked about the demo material. Let me uncheck that one. All right, let's see. So have I tried Technodad's spatial calibration disc? I have not. Have you, Jonathan?
I don't have the disc, but one of the locals brought it over here just in the last week or so to let me demo a little bit. And he specifically brought it over to show me some of the placement tests. Okay. And one of the tests was Technodad put the Dolby Atmos object in the exact front left corner of the room. Right. And it was supposed to balance then to where that's where you heard the object. And if you have your speakers in a more traditional speaker position, which is like overhead, it does not resolve in that top left corner. Yeah. So we had a little bit of back and forth. The guy's name was Kevin. He has positioned his speakers to accommodate that so that the object is basically his top ceiling speaker is actually acting as a front height speaker at this point. Okay. And he's like, that makes that sound perfect. Yeah. I said, but that's not really, if you're labeling it top middle and you're putting it in the front and the top front, it's not, or front height, it's not the same thing. So you might be making that particular demo good, but you're probably messing up other content.
Yeah.
I said, the reality is I can hear that doesn't work in my room. It does not resolve in the front left corner.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had this same Atmos setup with these same configurations since 2014 with different speakers, but the same placement.
Right.
And I've never watched a movie and thought that doesn't resolve right.
Yeah.
Because you don't know exactly where that object's supposed to be on screen. Like you're watching in front, it doesn't necessarily translate to exactly like watching a ball on that little thing move around.
Right.
The other thing I told Kevin is I've been in a lot of different Atmos rooms, like dozens at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And my preference in all the different rooms with the different content we've watched has always been to keep them in tighter and to keep them in tighter.
Okay.
More overhead has been not strictly overhead, but
but where they're supposed to. Yep.
In from, if you have a choice of angles, put them on the inner side, and that makes a more enjoyable Atmos experience, in my experience, in the different rooms that I've visited. Yeah. So I haven't watched the whole disc, but that was kind of eye-opening a little bit, just to kind of see, like, all right, there is places where that ball will not resolve in the right place. Yeah. Now you move it around here, it sounds great. You put it in the extreme corners, it doesn't resolve great, but it's okay.
And I would think you'd probably have to have a lot more speakers to be able to hit every single place that, I guess the engineer that's designing that, the sound engineer, to where he places that. But I'm with you. I've never watched A Quiet Place. And when the monster is overhead, I've never gone, he really should have been about 6 foot forward.
Yeah, you would just never know.
I just know he's up there and he's freaking me out because he's about to come down the stairs and get this lady,
Sure. So, and then by having the speakers in more as I'm talking, you're more in line of their dispersion pattern, especially if you have like kind of a narrower dispersion speaker and you put on the ceiling.
Right.
You're not getting a good clean sound. It doesn't sound like a full on-axis dispersion pattern if you're way far forward of what the dispersion characteristics were. So you're getting a better sound by having it in because you can't see it. You don't know the monster's supposed to be up at the front left corner. You just hear it. Hey, it's overhead. It's over there. I can tell that. I don't know 6 foot forward or 6 foot back, but the speaker sounds good and clean and full. So I'm not going to lose sleep over that personally.
Yeah, for sure. Joseph says, hey, Youth Man, I have a laser projector, Optima and Epson. Both are amazing images. What are your opinions about these projectors? Epson, to me, makes a great projector. We've talked about this many times on the channel. I had the 5040. Jonathan, you had the 6050?
No, I had a 5040 too.
Okay.
I had an 8350 from Epson and a 5040 from Epson. And now I have the LS4000.
Yeah, and Jonathan's probably had way more experience on, because they do side-by-side comparisons there in Kansas City, him and his group. Of course, we've done them at M-Wave, but the Epson, man, they provide an incredible bang for your buck. Great image, really bright. The colors look really nice. Oftentimes, they even handle motion quite a bit better than even some of the higher-end projectors. If I'm just looking at two brands and I don't know the specific models, but my nod would probably go towards the Epson side. We did have an Optima, I think, at Ryan's projector shootout. It didn't do so well. I think it was glowing light out of the vents. It was weird.
To be fair, that wasn't in the same ballpark price point, right? Wasn't it like a $1,500 projector or something?
It probably was, yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't. So you're saying laser Optima and laser Epson. What can you put models in there, Joseph, so we know what you're talking about?
Yeah, I didn't know Optima made a laser. So the Epson laser would be what, the LS 11,000
and 12,000. Yeah. And then they also had a 10,000 and a 10,500, which are a couple years old at this point, maybe 3 or 4 years old, that were laser. Mm-hmm. So they have like 4 in the home theater side.
Okay. Yeah, Joseph, if you're still in the chat, let us know. What models?
But the Optimus, generally speaking, are like a DLP style technology. They don't have to be, but they oftentimes are.
Okay.
Their black floor is not going to be as good. You're looking at like 1,000 to 1, 2,000 to 1 type range at best.
You're talking.
And the Epson's going to be like contrast, and the Epson's going to be native contrast, and the Epson's going to be about 2 to 4 times that usually. So it's a pretty big difference in native black floor between Epson and Optima in general.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can, I think if budget allows, man, we recommend Epson all day long over here. I mean, they're really, really great projectors. So Steven has a question. He says, how do you deal with variable aspect ratio movies such as Top Gun Maverick and many others on a 2.35 screen. So what he's talking about is my screen and Jonathan's screen is wider than 16:9. Some directors choose to film multiple aspect ratios in a film. So during the middle of like Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Maverick, you'll see the actual screen or the image go from scope, 2.35 or 2.41, 40 to 1. I'm not sure what the native aspect ratio is, but it'll go from that to IMAX. So now it's like a 16:9 image, and then it'll flop back, so you got this doing this. So there's only one, honestly, I only know one good way to deal with that, and it's expensive, and it's with a video processor. Without a video processor like a MadVR, what I did in the past I would fill my screen to scope, and then I would mask anything above that and anything below that. Because to me, I don't get impressed when a director wants to switch to IMAX. That doesn't make me go, oh, wow. It makes me get annoyed. I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Pick an aspect ratio that fits your movie. That's fine. But don't be switching it on us midterm, and throughout the movie. So typically that's just what you do. Either let it bleed over. Now, some people would rather watch that movie in 16:9. So they're going to have gray bars on the left and right of a scope screen. But then when it switches to 2.35, which is the majority of the movie, now you got gray bars on the left and right and gray bars on the top and bottom. And to me, that's even more distracting. So, Jonathan, what do you do in your room?
I don't like doing the masking. I've tried it before because it inevitably blocks something I need to see, like my remote menu on my DVD player or something.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah.
So all these things have masking. The Panasonic had it, the Epson has it, JVC has it, Sony has it. Where as Michael said, it basically kind of cuts off the image, which eliminates the overthrow.
Yep.
But how many menus appear, like your DVD menu appear below it, and now you can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
So what do you do then?
There's not a great, like I said, other than a MadVR, which will just kind of fit everything to your screen all the time and keep your menus in there. There's really not a good option for it. You just got to deal with it, let it overscan, or not overscan, but overshoot your screen.
Steven, the first thing that came to mind when I read your question was I just groan. Because you're like, not this again.
So I guess the good thing to that is there literally are so few movies. I mean, when you compare thousands of movies that are out there, and then, I can name 5, maybe 10,
sure,
maybe on a good day that do this variable. It's not worth changing my entire system to accommodate such a few. We're talking like less than 0.5% kind of thing. So it doesn't make sense. And like Jonathan said, we just grow and we're like, oh crap, oh well, we'll just endure it for this movie is what it is.
Well, and sometimes when they don't use it all the time, like the Interstellar track, there's a few times in there where it blows up and it's actually kind of fun because like the spaceship launch, for instance.
Yeah, sure.
When I demo that in my room, it's all cut and then it goes to the launch sequence and it zooms out, right? Well, now you got particles happening on the ceiling. There's like, it's overwhelming audio. It's overwhelming video. It sort of some way, in a weird way, it adds to the experience slightly. Yeah. It's a little bit strange, but at the same time, it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in some sort of peaceful scene and it just throws it up on the ceiling, it's kind of like, that didn't work too well.
Yeah, for sure.
Content specific.
Yep. Yeah, but fortunately, Joe says, the answer to that's a MadVR Envy, but again, you're talking what, $16,000. So, unless you just got a lot of disposable income, that's going to be a hard pill to make happen, but it's a phenomenal product. Absolutely. It's just an expensive one.
Now, if you're really green and you're asking the question, you may not know that you can just zoom it down. You don't have to over zoom, but then you'll just have black bars on the smaller content and the main content will fill up the screen. Yeah. So pick your poison there. Most of us would prefer the bigger image and just have it overthrow at the other times.
Yeah, I would absolutely, that would be mine as well. All right, Pitt says the McIntosh room was the bomb at audio Atlanta Home Theater. Sorry, I want one. Yeah, that again. Sonus Faber makes some of the most beautiful speakers to me. I mean, they're hand carved, handcrafted. They've got this. They take a lot of their inspiration from Italy, the boats in Italy. So they got this rounded front. Like those. I don't know, cigar boats. Is that what they're called? The fan.
I thought
They're
a
just.
cigar boat was like a power boat.
Yeah, maybe it's not a cigar boat. Then over in Italy, they're just these really high end kind of boats, but they're really round in the front end, and that's exactly like the shape and style and the inspiration that a lot of Sonus Faber, they take inspiration from these high end luxury boats, and they handcraft that into their their speakers. So, but yeah, that room. What was nice, and I told Will this. I said, Will, I appreciate you playing music that I could jam to. I mean, he was cranking it. They had just 2 speakers, 2 subwoofers, and you think, okay, Sonus Faber, and McIntosh, all right, they're going to play some frou-frou music. They're going to play some classical, which I'm sure they did. But dude, he was playing some cranking stuff. The Casimir song. Do you know that one?
Yes.
I mean, that thing was dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. I was like, and then when it hits those low notes, it was like, and the floor was wooden, so
Yes.
you got some serious tactile response out of those.
Yeah.
Fun,
very
fun,
good.
fun. Yeah, I agree. But it was cool just being able to see them handle music that you wouldn't really think, oh, this isn't the speaker for Michael because he likes hip hop or he likes, this whatever kind of music. But no, man, they handle them phenomenally. Joe says I ended up with the 7000 ES from M-Wave. Congratulations, man. Been going crazy. Added a Youthman deal. Used MadVR Envy Pro. Fantastic, man. So Joe's making some killer upgrades to his setup. It's always fun getting new toys. Is the NZ8 a laser projector? Yes. So it gets 20,000 hours on the estimated on the laser versus 3,000 hours on a bulb. One thing that always has frustrated with every projector I've owned with the bulb, it doesn't take very many hours before, and it's real subtle, but man, it just starts getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer over time. Now, granted, a laser projector is going to cost a lot more. So you're kind of paying for that bulb up front, if that kind of makes sense. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're not paying for a bulb, but when you're comparing that to a bulb projector, you could buy a bunch of bulbs and still not, pay the cost of a laser projector. So that's not the only reason. But I wanted additional brightness. I've
you talked into that and you talked right back out of it as far as the bulb.
Well, I guess what I'm just trying to say is that, it's got its advantages, but you got to figure out what works best for you. But yeah,
Sure.
So the reason why I went with the NZ8, we got brighter, more contrast. We've got the 120 refresh rate. So I'm not a serious gamer. I'm more of a casual gamer, but just be able to have that, because it was bad. One day somebody was over here and I forgot what they were doing, but they were showing me just how bad my lag was.
Yeah.
I was like, I know what it was. They hooked up a laptop and they moved I think it was Tony, saw it, and he's like, watch this. And he moves the thing, and like probably a second later on the screen, we see his cursor move. He's like, that's your lag. I went, oh, dang, no wonder I die so much in video games. Like by the time I see them, they've already shot me, man. So
yeah,
it's funny. So maybe it's not me. Oh, let me throw this out there too. Speaking of games, so at Atlanta Home Theater, they had a golf simulation.
Yeah.
And they had 2 racing simulations. One was an F1, like a Formula One. That was cool because you're almost flat. Like when you're sitting there, your legs are straight out in front of you, and you got the pedals underneath. And that one had 3 monitors, but they were smaller monitors. But that was super fun because it goes really fast. But the other room, they had I want to say they had 6 speakers, triad, gold, and silver, I think. They had 4. I want to say it's some of the Ascendo smaller subs, 4 Ascendo subwoofers in this small. I mean, we're talking this thing can't be but 10 feet by 10 feet or something. I mean, it's a small room. And they had 3 big monitors. And I mean, it's got D-Vox on it. So when you're hitting the corners, man, you hit the, oh my goodness, it was crazy. So the sound's incredible, immersive video. You got D-Box, so you got tactile response, and they got these and it was good because it got really hot in there, really, really hot. Because you got a PC that's running this thing, and so it's blowing out some heat. You got 3 or 4 people in the room. We got the door shut. It smelled like a middle school, boys' locker room in there, man. It was funky. But the cool thing is they had these little tubes that come up and they sit right in front of you. And the faster you go, the more air they blow on you.
Oh boy.
Like, dude, that's cool, man. But it comes at the tune of like, I don't know, $60,000 without speakers. It's expensive, but man, it was so much fun. But
man, some of those sim guys, I got a story for you on that. Some of those sim guys get so into it. One of the guys that I know from high school days, he really got into the sim stuff and went over to his house in the last couple of years to kind of like check out his sim gear. It's got all the hydraulics and everything that make it all move, and the tactile transducers all over it and everything. And as I sat down there, he's got the VR headset that you put on, and it's like it transports you in a different reality. And he's like, Jonathan, I want you to listen to this very closely. He said, my steering wheel has pneumatics. It's using hydraulics to do the steering wheel. He said, I want it to feel real. I don't want it to be able to overpower my steering wheel. I want it to feel real. So he said, if you happen to get your arm in between the steering wheel and the thing, if you wreck, it will break your arm. He said, because it's hydraulically controlled and your bone is not going to stop it. So he said, play like this is a real car. Don't do stupid things. And I was thinking like, whoa, like, wow, that's next level to think that. I played a little tactile steering wheel. It was like a toy, it tries to make you go left and you can still overpower it.
No,
those guys, when they get into the top end of that, they're serious.
So speaking of that, the F1 was exactly like that. So when I'm doing, it's got the real small, little handles kind of
paddle
thing.
shifters.
Yeah. And both systems were like that. They had the paddles, but when you wreck that Joker, you let go of the steering wheel because it's going like this. I mean, he's right. It gets, you can't hold it. You physically can't, because it actually pulls it out of your hand. And I'm like, we just flipped that one multiple times, man. You need more than a paint job. But yeah, those are super, super fun. Tahoya, did you get a chance to watch the opening scene from Unbroken in the Ascendo Theater? It was super impressive how well MadVR upscaled and tone mapped the standard HD picture. I did not see that scene at all in any of those. So, but yeah, that's an incredible scene, and that was a great theater too, man. So that was my first experience with Ascendo, other than Cedia. And I try not to base too much off of Cedia because that's a temporary room. They've only got a couple of days to build this thing, put it together, calibrate it. So I don't try to put too much stock in that. The first time I heard Ascendo, I wasn't really pleased. I love their subs in that room, but the just the mid-range, the vocals, I was like, it's okay. I just wasn't like, wow. This time I have a whole different appreciation for Ascendo, especially those Black Swans, man. This is in a room that's untreated, for the most part. They sounded fantastic. Ryan's going, he's thinking, should I change? I'm like, you're crazy, dude. Let's see what else we got here. I just want to say that I had the chance to meet Michael and Ryan in person last weekend at Audio Vice Live. Super nice and genuine, exactly the same person that they are on screen. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, so I'm all nice and happy and high-fiving, and Ryan's like, what's up? I'm just kidding, man. No, honestly, here's the thing. There's no reason to be any different. If you have to be different on camera, if you've got a persona on your channel, then that doesn't make sense to me. I'm the same guy on and off camera. So I appreciate the kind words, man. I've heard Jonathan mention lab grouping clone amps as a good way to get cheap power. Any experience or anecdotes with the newer Power Soft clones? So I'm not familiar with those. Jonathan?
No, I don't have any direct experience, but I will tell you this, and this is historic, right? I've probably had about 6 or 8 friends, truly, like not exaggerating, get those Chinese clone amps, and every single one of my friends that's gotten those Chinese clone amps, they've had them fail. So they're good power, they're cheap, they're not extremely well made or reliable necessarily for, I'm talking years on end, right? And this goes back to the 2010, 2012 time frame.
Yeah.
If you know how to repair, you had a good repair shop around, or if you want to go through and replace the caps, you know, go ahead. A fellow I know pretty well off the forums named Austin sent me 2 of his broken amps to see if I wanted to, for free, if I wanted to fix them and have some clone amps in here. I took the covers off and I looked inside. It looks like he kept them outside. I mean, and he didn't, but there's like surface rust on a lot of the stuff. Capacitors are blown. Like, you open up a Crown amp that's 30 years old and you don't see that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
they're just using really cheap metal that oxidizes and everything. And I don't know. I have a bad taste in my mouth. I considered buying one of those things because they are just the cheapest way to get the most power. But I want something that lasts, and so that's not my route.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have something like a Parasound amp. I mean, they're expensive. Let's face it, they're really expensive. Those jokers are built like tanks, and they're meant to last for literally decades.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes you do get what you pay for. So you just got to pick up, you know, kind of figure out where you want to put your money. Jamie Hill says, I recently purchased 7 Arendal speakers, and I agree. Everything has a very premium look and feel. My wife raised her eyebrows when she saw the white gloves. It's like, what is going on here, man?
Well, I felt like I needed to put them on too, because that finish is real, like, perfect, and you don't want to get a fingerprint smudge on it. And
yeah, some guys at Audio Device Live, I happen to be walking by the Nautilus from BMW. That's the one that looks like a snail.
Yeah,
it's 150 pounds, so it's a heavy speaker. They had 3 guys lifting it up together and kind of putting it into place. And I mean, I pulled out my phone. I'm like, I got to film this. This is cool. You know, when you get a chance to see them set up this thing. And they weren't using gloves. And some people in the comments are like, man, I can't believe they were handling that thing without gloves. Okay, you don't want gloves on 150-pound speaker,
right?
That's $100,000, because that joker's going to slip out of your hands. You know, we can always polish it and get the smudges, fingerprints off, but yeah, so having that it is a nice feel. It's just kind of like a nice touch. And we know they're cheap gloves. They're not sending you, you know, $400 pair of gloves, but just the fact that they're like, it's just those little details that kind of matter. You know, I've done some unboxings of products. I'm like, even headphones, and you're like, dude, this is like a cool experience. Not McIntosh, but Apple does that with almost all their products. You know, it's about the experience of unboxing it, and you kind of get this premium, you know, in your mind, whether it is or not. It's like,
right. It sets the stage.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for you to enjoy it.
Yeah, so I like it. iCope says, can anyone recommend a ground loop hum eliminator for a pair of PSA subs? Ran dedicated 20 amp circuits, but that's giving me the hum with the AVR on a separate circuit. So hums are a pain in the butt, Jonathan. I think we've all dealt with them. Before I ran dedicated 20s to my room, every subwoofer I connected in that room always had a hum, and I just dealt with it. There are definitely some ones on Amazon that people tend to look up. I think it's called Hum X. Yeah, Hum X.
Pretty pricey.
Yeah, they're like $80, $70, 80, 87. I'll show you on the screen. These are the only ones that I've heard of people using, but I personally haven't used them. But it looks like this. It just says Hum X from Ebb Tech, it looks like. So they literally just plug them in the wall and plug your item in there. So it looks like there's a couple other brands, but that's the main one that people. This one seems to have good reviews. This one's kind of mixed reviews. Look at that. So it's only about half of them. So, but yeah, so I don't have any personal experience with them, but maybe look into something like that.
I'm going to share my screen here in a second and show you how I solved my hum problem.
Yeah, cool.
Let me get this. Present, share screen. Yeah, okay. So we'll do this one. All right, can you see my screen, Michael?
Yes, sir.
So that means everyone else can see it. So what we're looking at here is wiring the chassis together on all your AV equipment, and then wiring that ground link to your ground terminal on your outlet.
Interesting. Okay.
So here's how this pans out. And I do this to all my equipment. And without it, man, it sounds like a helicopter in here. There's so much ground noise.
Sure.
So you basically take a chassis screw. If you don't have a ground terminal on your device, like this one down here actually has a ground terminal. Some of them do have a built-in one, some don't. If you don't, take a screw out of your chassis, scratch with a screwdriver down to bare metal, and then build a little wire thing like what you're seeing here just out of some connectors, and link those chassis all together. And then link, like here from your AVR, you definitely have a ground screw on your AVR.
Right.
Link those into your outlet, into the ground.
Wow, I like that you cut a little hole in there. That's nice.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not pretty, but it will get rid of your hum. And I haven't seen this fail yet. So if you're willing to do that little bit of legwork, you can get rid of your hum. Now, nice. In my room, I wired this myself, which is probably against some sort of electrical code somewhere, but this is a 20 amp circuit and this is a 20 amp circuit. So I have two 20 amps right next to each other. I just pigtailed the two ground plugs together. So both circuits are pigtailed together, and then that ground wire feeds into that little loop that you saw. And with all the things wired together, you're going to solve your problem. See there's me solving.
He's like, yes. Love it, dude. That's cool.
Also, another little interesting thing that I've kind of picked up over the years is that if you unhooked your HDMI cord from your receiver, a lot of times, strangely enough, that solves your hum issue, and you can kind of work backwards from there a little bit. But it's interesting how often that ends up being the problem.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
Yeah, it's so weird. A lot of times, if you've got cable for some reason, like I've never had cable, but that's one of the first questions people always ask: do you have cable connected in your system? For some reason, that oftentimes will bring in a hum. So, kind of like Jonathan said, sometimes it's a pain when you're trying to track down a hum. Let's say if it's on your subwoofer, if you unhook everything and you only have power connected to the wall and you're getting a hum, well, that's inside, that system. At least you've eliminated, it's not your processor, it's not your cable, it's not the RCA or XLR cable going, from the sub to the processor or your AVR. So it's kind of a pain, but like Jonathan said, sometimes you can undo. I had that happen for some reason. Well, I guess the reason would be my projector is on a different circuit. It's actually outside my room.
That's correct.
And so you got an HDMI cable coming in to an AVR. And so if that introduces any kind of sound, it's like, okay, yeah.
Yep. Bruce asked what happens if you connect it to the power. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, probably not a good idea. Let's see. All right, Johnny E says, "What's up, Jonathan, Youth Man? Question, Jonathan, what projector are you using, or what processor are you using for your home theater?"
I'm watching the Epson LS12000 right now. It's on the screen, so that's my projector. I have an NZ7 as well. My preference is for the Epson. I'm going to sell off the NZ7 at some point.
Yeah.
And what processor? I picked up the Marantz AV10 in the last 3 or 4 months or so, and I'm using that as my processor. Yeah. I wanted to try the 6 ceiling speakers, and that was a good way to do it, I thought.
Yeah.
Keeps me in the Denon Marantz family, which I'm really fond of the HEOS app, and
sure,
we're comfortable with the receivers. They've been problem-free for me, so I wanted to stay in that realm.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna say my wife can grab this as a FaceTime for my daughter. I'll be right back, fellas.
Sure. See if I can go through the next questions here. Let's go to Michael, you're not muted for what it's worth.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Michael, I'm helping my family upgrade their living room TV to 75 amp Hisense. I'm moving my mom's 9.24 system downstairs in the living room with Tonewinner AT300 processor. That's cool. It's not really a question, but that's cool. Those Tonewinner processors, Damien, if you're still here, speak up on that. I want to hear what your thought is on that. I know some people have bought it, and by accounts, if you're not trying to use audio EQ and you just want a processor, that's a good way to go. It's very inexpensive compared to other 13-channel options. I'd like to hear more on that one. Okay, I'm going to unstar that. Go to the next one here. Have either of you guys had significant improvements using acoustic treatments in your room, absorption and diffusion? Yes. Maybe Michael will come back, and I'll just speak to my part on this, and then Michael can speak to his. So I have a big room, which helps kind of eliminate some of those issues. But I have a wall over here, and I've spoken to this on several podcasts in the past. This room is asymmetrical. So I have, let's see if I can get this over here more. This side extends further out than this side. So what I had noticed in the past is if I measured my seats and I set everything to 75 dB, that wall over here would still sound louder, even though my measurements would say, hey, you're equal between your different channels. I'd hear more sound coming this side, and that's because that wall was reflecting sounds. So I tried different types of treatments on there. I tried some acoustic panels, some 2-inch panels, some 4-inch panels, 2x4 foot type things, and I ultimately settled on liking the foam the best. This is 3.5, kind of a high density foam. It's thicker than a normal like acoustic foam. If you push it, it barely moves in. And it does basically like a little bit of absorption and diffusion because of that shape. So where you can see it's kind of thinnest, it will be basically almost just like drywall. And where it's thicker, it's absorbing. And because it's such a broad section, it kind of handles that reflection point for all the seats. It makes a huge difference in my room. Like as you walk towards that wall, it really silences down. And it made that problem, most importantly, it made that problem go away, where I felt like this side of the room was louder. It opened it up, so now I feel like there's a lot of open space on both sides. So it makes a difference. And Mike, we've talked about this before too. Like my first room when I first got into the hobby in a big way, I had JTR speakers. It was in a different house. I had tile floor. I had drywall ceiling. I had bare walls, and I loved it. And it was awesome. But
we get used to it.
It was not refined, right?
Yeah.
You didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. I thought this was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then as you kind of like start touring other people's houses and you start seeing there's some treatments and nice setups and so forth, it does make a positive difference.
Sure. Yeah. And I even go back to my days as a youth pastor. So our youth ministry inherited the old church sanctuary. And so it's a big open room, probably about 200 or 300 people could sit in there comfortably, big high ceilings, but it was complete hard surfaces. Carpet on the bottom was real thin, you know? So there's really nothing absorbing the sound. If you clap in there, it's an echo chamber. And when I would preach or teach in front of the youth with a microphone, we got these big speakers, that sound was bouncing around all around the room. And if somebody were to ask a question, almost always I would have to ask them to repeat it. And the reason is I would have their sound hit my ears, and a fraction later, I've got the reflective sound, and your brain is going, it's confusing to your brain. Same thing in your room. And so a lot of people, they want to buy a better center channel because they think, oh, my center channel stinks. I just need the next model up. That may not be the issue. The issue might be you have so many reflections in your room that your center channel would sound a whole lot better if you could tame some of those. And so acoustics is a huge thing. You don't have to spend a fortune. Jonathan's got some great options on his sidewall that do some great diffusion, and they're definitely super affordable. And if you can build them, you're going to save a ton of money as well. So yeah, I'm all for that. Hey, I appreciate y'all. Let me jump off there for a second. One thing I've tried to do with my family, especially my children, I want them to know that they come first in my life. You know, I mean, yes, I have a business, I have a job, but when my kids call, I don't ever want them to go, you know, Dad was always busy and he always had to get back with me. Like I wasn't priority, you know? So I want to instill that with them. But what was cool is she was actually showing me something tech related. And if I could have made it happen on the screen, I would have showed you, but she's in Vegas, like I said, for that pool tournament that they just won. And she said, Dad, check this out. So there's a projector. It's probably about this big, and it's shining down on like a surface, kind of like my desk here. And it was a keyboard. And so she's touching the desk on the keyboard, and it's playing through speakers. And she's like, this is crazy, you know? And so she just showed me that. It was pretty awesome.
That is cool. I've been looking at tech before. It's really pretty amazing, frankly.
Yeah, that's what I said technology is pretty wild. Hammer says 500 nits on a projector would destroy blacks. And so probably the brighter that you, now as you get on to higher end projectors, I would hope that they handle that better than lower end projectors. So one thing that that is a good discussion, because a lot of times people would compare, let's say, for instance, the JVC to an Epson, and they're like, but the Epson has this many lumens and the JVC only has this many lumens. And the reality is, JVC, I've had conversations with them. They said, look, we're not trying to run that race of lumen output. We're trying to make a product that is accurate in colors, has incredible black levels, has great contrast, and those types of things. But typically, they said, for the most part, to be able to increase that output, you're going to suffer in some of those other areas as far as, the black levels and contrast.
But there's such a thing as like perceived contrast. And as you get more light, it doesn't have to be the black floor that you're talking about to enjoy. Like you start out the conversation saying that was an amazing looking image, right? 500 nits. Ryan said, whoa, this blows me away. You're right. The contrast ratio was probably not that great, but you can still tell what color black is when you go outside underneath the sun, right? You can see a black car, you can see black items. It doesn't have to be like true black for you to perceive that it's black in real bright situations. Your irises adjust.
Sure. Joseph says, what are your thoughts on Pro Cinema subs in the home theater environment? I have a JBL 3181F. It doesn't go as low as some, but man, does it slam. So you're right. So typically with, Pro Cinema subs, they've got a lot of mid bass. They're designed for output, because usually they're put in churches or, bars, or just an area that you need to fill a lot of space and a lot of sound, but they typically don't dig very low. A lot of those, are around 30 hertz?
Right, or worse, correct.
Or even higher. I'm not willing to sacrifice from 20 hertz. I don't want a subwoofer unless it can go down to at least 20. If it can do 20, 16, 17, that's fantastic. Anything lower is just a bonus. But I personally, you're missing out on a ton of fun, to be honest with you. What do you got?
Can you see this?
Let me make my screen bigger.
So that sub is rated at 30 hertz minus 10 dB.
Ooh.
You're down a lot.
Yeah.
Where it matters. And it does matter. And I'll give you my opinion on that. We had a subwoofer shootout in 2011 where we had a Yamaha Pro Audio box that was highly reviewed. It had two 18s in it. It was tuned to like 32 or 34 hertz. I actually expected at that time it to do really well. I frankly, I kind of wondered if it wouldn't beat some of the internet forum darlings like the SVS and at the time Epic Empire and the HSU and stuff that we also had in the competition, because it was so much louder, right? I mean, look at this peak SPL. We're talking 130 dB SPL. The HSU and the Epic Empire and the SVS, they were like maxing out like 110, 115, 120 type range, right? So this is way more capable. And this is just one 18. Yeah. The Yamaha had two 18s.
Right.
Matter of fact, that I'm going to stop sharing here and get back on the screen. Let's see.
There you go. That's funny. So I pulled him off. I pulled his screen off, but when he went to click on that, his image must have slid over, and then he clicked on remove himself from the stream. So he'll be back here shortly. That was pretty funny. I did not boot him. He kind of booted himself. That's pretty funny. Liam, I appreciate the super chat. We'll hit yours while we're waiting on Jonathan. $10 super chat. Appreciate it, brother. I'm building a home theater piece by piece. What are y'all's thoughts on buying Dolby Atmos speakers without knowing the dimensions of a room ahead of time? Currently live in an apartment. Dude, that was funny. I had pulled your screen off, and I'm guessing what happened is it moved your image under where you were about to click. And then you were like, you ejected.
I don't know what happened. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry if I did it.
No, you're good. It was pretty funny.
All right. So what I was going to say is,
we'll come back to you.
Can you hear me okay, by the way, since I joined back in? Is it all good?
Yep, you're totally good.
All right. So I expected that thing to do well, and it didn't. It actually placed almost bottom of the pile for home theater. And it wasn't a bad sounding subwoofer. Like, it sounded good, but it was like missing, at that point, you're missing almost 2 octaves of bass.
Yeah.
So you'd hear the SVS or you'd hear the HSU play, and there'd be extra notes that just were not there. on the Yamaha. It would be the same thing with your JBL. You're
Yeah.
literally, if you think of like an octave as 8 white notes on a piano,
Mhm.
a 40 hertz tune or so, which is basically kind of where you're at on that subwoofer, to 20 hertz as an octave, and to 10 hertz as an octave. You could be missing at least 8 notes on a piano, and then maybe another 8 notes on a piano of actual notes and feel and substance.
So here's a real world example of that. And it doesn't apply as far as, I wasn't using a pro audio sub, but there's a song, I think it's called Angel by Sarah McLachlan, maybe. And I think there's 4 specific notes. It's like do, 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 do. And I've reviewed certain speakers and I listen for that. And there are some speakers that can reproduce that bottom note and some of them that don't. And so what Jonathan is saying is, when you're watching a movie, there's certain elements that the engineer, the sound engineer, added there intentionally that you're just simply not getting, you're not experiencing. So you really are missing out. So I'm with Jonathan. I'm not super excited about pro audio subwoofers in home theater. Yes, they get loud, but I'm not seeking loud. I want all the information. I want to experience. If there's an explosion, if you're at 35 dB, I'm sorry, not 35 dB. If you're at 35 hertz and that's as low as you can go, man, you might as well just pick up a Bose system at that point. I mean, because you're not, you're missing out. So
well, and it's not just audible things too. We should also speak. There's tactile feel that comes with lower frequencies.
Absolutely.
So, like a high kick drum, the frequency that a JBL sub would create, or a pro audio sub for that purpose, is almost like a chest cavity, or back of the head, like hair moving kind of kick, like an impact kick. Whereas a low frequency sound is almost like a wobble, your pant leg actually flutters, right?
Yeah, it's like a pressurization.
It's a different feel entirely, and you're missing it altogether with the PA subs. And it's when you've experienced it versus not, it's very auto, it's very clear. It's very noteworthy.
Yeah. Hey, Jedi, I'm going to save this question, if you don't mind, to tomorrow. Ryan and I are going to do a dedicated live stream about the same time, 8:00. We'll talk about our experience in the different rooms that we had a chance. But honestly, it was really, really done well. Very pleased with my experience on that. Let's see. So we're going to hit these here. And because I don't want to keep Jonathan too late, we're already about an hour and a half. So Liam, appreciate the super chat. Building a home theater piece by piece, which is a great idea. Most of us don't have the luxury of just building a home theater, write one check and one and done. So definitely build it over time, build it over, as funds become available. What are y'all's thoughts on buying Dolby Atmos speakers without knowing the dimensions of a room ahead of time? Currently live in an apartment. I guess so. My thought on that, if you can't utilize them now, I guess the main reason maybe to buy them would be if you want to make sure that you stay in the same series. But more than likely, you should be able to buy those. Let's say you move out of the apartment in 5 years. 5 years down the road, you should be able to find those matching Atmos speakers, even if they're on the used market. You just may not be able to buy them brand new. That would be the only hesitation. But I'm not even opposed to having a different brand or different model for your Atmos. I mean, I love the fact that Jonathan, you can see back here, he's got identical speakers for his bed layer and his Atmos. And it's by far probably the most immersive sound that I've heard in a room, because it's completely seamless. So when you do have different models or different tweeters that are used in your height or Atmos speakers versus your bed layer, you might can pick up on that a little bit. But I don't think necessarily you have to buy the Dolby Atmos speakers super early if you can't utilize them, in the next several years. I don't think they're that critical. I think you'll be able to definitely find some, even if you got to find them on eBay or something like that. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that?
I probably wouldn't buy until you know your room, honestly. You could buy your LCR. It sort of depends on what you want to do. I'm one that used to go through a lot of different speakers. I'd buy them and keep them for a couple of years and move on to the next pair. So if that's your attitude and you're willing to buy used or willing to sell used, then by all means.
Yeah.
But if you're wanting to be once and done and you're not the kind of likes to roll through equipment, then maybe wait till you get your house and your room size and you can buy a bigger speaker for your home theater, which you'll want, so you can have that nice cinema sound than you could for using it in your apartment. That'd be my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. He was talking about how buying tech too far in advance sometimes backfires, and he also makes that kind of caveat that speakers really aren't that bad because they're not going to change that much over time. So
right.
Yep. What you got here? Did you put that one up?
No, I didn't. Not intentionally.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were trying to answer that. We can answer it. Hey guys, have either of you been able to demo the PQ? I have not on that model.
I have not either, but did they have that one at the M-Wave? But on the first day, I missed it if they did, but I feel like they might have had some sort of BenQ there.
I never got a chance to get in. Maybe on the it
definitely like I think Andy brought it with him, if I remember right, or maybe it wasn't the 4550. But it was, yes,
I got in there just to pop in just to see what it looked like, but I never got a chance to experience it. So
Ryan, watch the comments and see if somebody sounds off on that 4550. I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure either that or something very similar was at M-Wave that first day before Andy had to leave for home.
Okay. Let's see. Samar paid $500 for a 5040 slightly used, sold it for $1,200 to buy my 1000 Hisense mini LED. Win-win. Awesome, man. Yeah, used market I love. Gimpy G Gaming, Youthman, did you see PlayStation 5 is adding Atmos for games next update? Yes, I did see that. That's super cool. Yeah. Actually, I saw a video even on today. So yeah, and I think Brad from Home Theater Gamer, he might have done a video on that, or maybe he's going to do a video on that. So
yeah, that's cool. That's good news. It's a little late, but it's good.
They should. I know that's the thing. I think I made a post. I'm like a little late to the party here, Sony. But we're glad you're still, you decided to show up. The right rear chair and Jonathan's theater looks super comfortable. I could definitely fall asleep in it.
You did fall asleep in it, Mark. Is this Mark?
Yes.
Is that Mark from Discord?
Yes.
Yes, you did. I think we have a picture of you, Mark, falling asleep back there.
That's funny, dude.
Right in this chair, right here.
So great. He didn't even remember falling asleep.
He was awesome. So worn out. A lot of those guys were so worn out from the M-Wave. They were running ragged. He was one of the setup guys for JTR. Yeah. Came over, I think it was Saturday night.
Long days.
Just crashed out on the chair for a little while.
Yep, for sure. Wendell says, Jonathan, are those blue lights where your height speakers are? So we'll make you big here.
Yeah, that's right. All the speakers are in blue right now. There's just an RGB 50/50 strip in each speaker, so it didn't come that way. I put them in there for some customization.
Yeah, they look awesome.
Just a little ambient.
He's got 6 Atmos above him, and he's got 9 bed layer.
9 bed layers. So yeah, it's 15 channels.
Yeah, so identical speakers, which is really amazing. Being able to have those, just seamless transition from your bed layer to your Atmos, panning front to back, side to side, music. Sounds amazing for sure. John Lira says, Jonathan, what made you get those subwoofers? And has he seen a famous YouTube video by Nick St. John's for Ultimax setup that's 8 years old? Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't seen that, but I got my Ultimax back in 2014, so I might have had them for 9 years at this point.
All right.
I'm the old guard.
Yeah. Jonathan's the OG. Ryan, 20,000 hours to half brightness in theory. Okay. So on a laser projector.
Oh, back to the previous question. What made me get them?
My bad. I'll come back.
It's okay. I kind of missed it too, but they were rated really well. They're assemble yourself, do it yourself type driver. Mm-hmm. They had a really impressive rating on database from Josh Rickey. He does a lot of different measurements from a lot of different drivers, and he basically said kind of at the time, I don't know how things have progressed since then, but at the time they were kind of a value leader of all time, like $250, $300 type range. They were the best driver that it had ever been. And so I had some boxes to fill. I saw his review. I knew he knew his stuff, and I bought them. Been real happy with them. Like I said, I've had them now for quite a long time, and they've done me well. I've lost all initiative to upgrade. I've not even ever since then. I've had some people ask me if I would be willing to change out to their product or if I'd be willing to upgrade, and I don't really feel the need. Like, I'm very happy with what I have. That's one place where I'm completely settled.
So back to Ryan's, he says 20,000 hours to half brightness in theory. So,
yeah. I mean, that was back when they were asking. You were talking about lamps versus laser, and the 20,000 hours is not to death; it's to 50% brightness.
Okay, so I always thought that was okay. Interesting. I appreciate you clarifying that. I thought it meant like, okay, this is when you need a new projector. Is at the end?
Well, you might need a new projector if it's half brightness, but it's not dead.
Right.
Shouldn't be dead.
Okay, I got you. That's actually interesting because I didn't know that. Because I was when you think of on a bulb projector, they rate them like 3,000 hours, and that's like when a lot of times that's when the bulb is about
really
to go.
dim. Yeah, I'm not. That JVC NX5 that one of our locals bought, Brian, he bought it from Nebraska Furniture Mart. It was a floor model. It had 2,500 hours on it. And when we measured it with the light meter, the little light meter you bought with our equipment, it was like 430 lumens, and it's supposed to be 1,500 to 1,600 with a new bulb. Yeah. So 2,500 hours, it was a third as bright. Sure. We got a new bulb. He bought a new bulb, and it measured at 1,500 or so. So it literally lost a third brightness in 2,500 hours. Yeah. Now a laser won't do that, right? You're talking 20,000 hours to half brightness.
Yeah.
Instead of a third brightness.
So it's definitely a benefit. That's one of the major benefits I think of the laser projectors.
And the other little got you, if you're hiring a calibrator and you're real particular about that, each bulb has to be calibrated differently. And the laser, there's none of that, right? You calibrate it once and you're okay. It will gradually degrade, but you're still calibrated. You won't have a different color that comes forward.
Yeah, and also think about this though too with calibration on a bulb. Like Nick says he calibrates every 400 hours because it changes. It changes the way that the colors look. It changes the way.
Changes the gamma. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so he's constantly having to do that. And so if you pay somebody, I don't even know what it costs to have a professional calibrator. Let's say you pay
$500.
Yeah. Let's say you even pay $500. Well, in 500 hours or maybe a little bit more, technically you need to do it again. So that can add up too. So Bruce Barnes says, yeah, Michael, you really sound like an introvert. Not. So I've always said that. So I classify myself as an extreme introvert. And where I get that from is if I go into a room and I don't know, I shared this with Ryan literally yesterday. We're at the airport, we're having dinner in one of the airport restaurants. And I mentioned that. I said, I'm an introvert. I feel like I'm an introvert. And I said, here's why. If I'm talking to a group of people at M-Wave, I'm not an introvert at all. Number one, it's my event. I want to make sure that you're having a good time. So I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to come up, you know what I'm saying? I don't mind approaching people I don't know personally, but also know you're there for a reason. You're there because you share the same passion that I do in home theater and music and movies and such. So that makes it easy conversation. Where I get really introverted are things like, I told Ryan, I said, you see that family over there? It would be really, really out of my character to walk over there, pull up a chair and just start talking to them because I know nothing about them. That's really awkward for me. So that's where the introvert comes. The other thing is, let's say something's here's another example I gave him. Jessica and I were at the gym the other day, and there were some students that had come in from their local school. And so they're doing treadmills. Well, they brought them in on a bus. Well, the bus driver said, hey guys, it's time to go. So they shut down the, their exercise machine and they just left. And Jessica, here's where the introvert versus extrovert, she's like, ma'am, they need to get over there and wipe those things down. Cause she's a germaphobe. And I'm like, I would not say a thing. I'd be like, whatever. I'd either go clean it off or just ignore it, So that's where I kind of feel like I'm an introvert, but at events and stuff, I'm not, because I know that you're there for the same reason I am. It just makes it easy to have a conversation. And once I know that we've been talking for an hour and 40. Yeah, I can talk quite a bit, but it's because I know that we've already got common interest. So that's the difference. Ryan was way taller than expected. Everybody in Kansas is freaking giants. Jonathan, how tall are you?
I'm 6'3". Ryan's still taller than me. I think he's 6'4".
I'm 5'11", man. I feel like a little dude when I get around you guys. But yeah, everybody's tall. Sheldon's tall. Scott Newby, he's tall. I mean, everybody. I think it's like y'all's water up there is different than ours down here. So maybe your vegetables are like better. They got less preservatives. I don't know. Tyler says, what would you recommend for an amp for an SI HS18 in a sealed enclosure, Crown XLS 2002, or Speaker Power SP1 2400 plate amp, or something else? Jonathan, you got way more experience on DIY speakers, so we're talking stereo integrity. They're 18-inch subwoofer, sealed enclosure. What would you use to power that?
I cannot recommend a Crown amp for subwoofers, specifically if it has a DSP. Crowns are great amps. However, they have a roll-off that's built in. I think it's 1/12 of an octave, if I remember right. I have to go look it up to find out. But this is not hearsay. Crown admits it. They choose that because in their pro audio application, what their bread and butter is, you don't want to amplify low noises. That could be like mic breathing or anything else that would really kind of blow out a speaker or cause problems. So they have a filter built in at 20 hertz. If you're trying to build a field subwoofer, you got a massive sub. The HST is a nice driver. Don't roll it off with the amplifier. So the speaker power, those are great amps. Pretty pricey, but if you could swing it, that's considered to be a great amp. You got a lot of other options. Even an iNuke would be okay, but you might have trouble matching the ohm rating on that. I don't remember what the HST18 ohm rating is. Yeah. But you can't go wrong with a speaker power, or if you're willing to roll the dice with a clone amp, you can get plenty of power that way too. Just avoid Crown for sealed subs. Pick up Crown for anything else. Right. Subwoofers, speakers, anything else, but not for subs, not for sealed subs.
As always, Jonathan, you're such a wealth of knowledge, man. Appreciate you. Let's see. So Alex, this is Alex Evans at Atlanta Home Theater. So he said the weather appeared fine. It just got really nasty when we were there at the airport. You couldn't even see outside the window. And so I think at one time, a lot of there was sirens going off. There was stuff shutting down at the airport due to the storm. So he's going to do an annual event, which he told me, and that's exciting. And he'll continue to push the envelope. So we've done some collaborations in the past. We did the $1 million Star Wars home theater tour, which was phenomenal. That gentleman's dad, Charlie's dad, is doing one literally right next door to him. Almost identical in size and speaker configuration, but he's doing a Western theme. So I'm excited to see that in the future. So, and like I said, we'll do another live stream. Alex, if you're still in the chat, Ryan and I, he's toast. He got his flight canceled. And so he only had like an hour sleep last night. So we're going to do a live stream tomorrow night, 8 p.m. and really just talk about our experience at Atlanta Home Theater and possibly even, because I don't think we've really talked about Audio Advice Live, or did we? Man, I've been to so many things. I don't know if we had a live stream in between that time period. I don't think so. But if not, we'll hit that too. So, but definitely be talking about Atlanta Home Theater. That was a fun event, man. Best party I've ever been to be honest with you. it was crazy, man. I mean, just the people there too were so much fun to hang out with, industry leaders. Like I said, Jeffrey from Ascendo was there. You got Will Klein from McIntosh Group. We had John Heron from Trenov was there. We got the Wisdom Audio guys there. I mean, just so many people, man. Just great folks. Calibrators. There were some dealers there as well. Just fun time. What were you saying? Oh, David from Cobuzz was there. He's a great dude, David Solomon. So a lot of fun.
So I saw Home Theater Gamer produced a video of the LS800 projectors in a triple screen gaming setup.
Yes.
Was that at Audio Advice Live, or was that at Atlanta Home Theater?
That was at Audio Advice Live, yeah.
Okay, did you see that room?
I did. That was fun. It was really cool.
Did you get to sit in the driver's chair or the main seat?
I did. So they had an Xbox controller. They were doing a flight simulation when I went in there, but they also had a racing sim. Really, it wasn't even racing sim. It was just like one of the racing games on Xbox. So theirs was definitely quite different than the experience at Atlanta Home Theater, because that was more your hardcore gaming setup. I mean, these are high-end setups there. They were probably $60,000. For that system, not including speakers and such. But at Atlanta Home, at Audio Advice Live, that was more of like, this is something that like the average guy could put together. I mean, it's not cheap because you got 3 projectors, you got 3 screens, but it's definitely doable. It's not super, super high end. And, but yeah, but that was fun, man. Cause they had 3 120-inch screens, and, you know, I have one straight in front of you, and then the 2 beside them were kind of, let's see if I can do it, kind of angled.
Yes.
But it was fun, man. Really fun. That room got hot too, dude.
I imagine.
So, man, when you put computers and projectors and bodies, man, and shut the door, it's a sweaty middle school locker room, man. It gets funky quick. I thought there was something else I was going to say.
Well, I saw someone in the comments talking about that subwoofer room and some of the music in that video you posted earlier. Yeah. Tell us more about that. Like, I saw people were
on which one?
The 50-inch subwoofer that was at the Atlanta one, right? I'm kind of confused on which one's which. I'm not sure which show
okay.
that was.
Sure. So let me go here. I'm gonna go to my personal Facebook page, because I think I put a photo. I think, yeah, there's the Christie. There it is. All right, so let's put this up here. Maybe you guys can see. I just think I captured this shot. I'm like, this is awesome. So this is on the left. That is David, David Solomon with Qobuz. So Qobuz is, similar to Tidal. So they've got high resolution streaming services. David is a fun guy to be around, man. So he walks in there and he's listening to this thing, and he just grabs his air guitar and just starts rocking out. And Will Klein's over to the right with Sonus Faber and McIntosh group, and he's just cracking up at him. But I just happened to pull out my camera real quick and snap that. We just had a blast. So this is a 50-inch Ascendo subwoofer. To the right and left of that, flanking it, are a Black Swan from Ascendo. And right now you can see that one's angled to the left. That, I think we had moved it to clean, or they had moved it to clean, because this was the day after the party. So we were doing a projector comparison, and I think while they were setting up, they were like, hey, let's go listen to that, that system in there. And they had already cleaned, so we had to adjust that speaker back. But it was crazy, man. If you think about this, we always talk about there's no replacement for displacement. So to pressurize this room, that speaker has no problem. You can see they're standing on wooden floors, so you get a lot of tactile response there. And that speaker is literally barely moved. Even when they were cranking this thing, Jeffrey Heindel, so he's he's with Ascendo, owner of Ascendo. He said the Black Swans, when paired with 415s for their 15-inch subwoofers, they will hit about 140 dB, no problem. That's ridiculously loud. I think the subwoofer will get down to somewhere around 3 hertz to 5 hertz, I believe, is what I've been told. So you're talking extremely low frequency response, ridiculous output. You can see, as I mentioned earlier in the show, those horns are oval. So the dispersion pattern, like the directivity of the sound that comes out of them, you can see it's really wide, but it's not a really tall sound. And the reason why they do that is they don't want reflections bouncing off your ceiling, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with acoustic treatment. If you've got sound bouncing all around your room, the more that it bounces, the less clear it's going to be. So by controlling the dispersion vertically up and down, so that you minimize the amount that it's bouncing off the floor and bouncing off the ceiling, it just cleans up that image. This was the first horn speaker that Ryan said that he liked. He typically doesn't care for horns. I love horns. I've always enjoyed clips. I love JTR. JBL makes a great speaker. But he listened to these and he was blown away. It was awesome, man. It was definitely fun. Let me see if I can, I'll mute it. But let's go back. There's a video. You guys can still see this, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to mute it.
We can't hear it now unless maybe it's really low. I can't hear anything.
No, it's definitely not playing. But I just want you to see their expressions. I think it's hilarious. So you probably can hear that, right?
Yeah, now I can hear it.
Yeah. So let's mute that. But watch this. So there's Jeffrey in the blue shirt. Of course, he's having a good time. He's like, I'm demoing my speak, and they've got this thing cranking. It's pretty. This dude he hears it going on. He's like, all right, I got to come hear this, man. So he walks in. We got Calibrator back here. There's Will Klein with Sonus Faber and McIntosh Group. And Will is just like, he's grinning ear to ear. Like, this is stinking phenomenal. And then you'll see him, he'll kind of squat down. He's like, he's really getting into it here. He's like, this is intense, man. And Will knows good sound. He knows good sound, and he was thoroughly enjoying himself. We got one acoustic panel on the sidewall. I think that was just brought in for this room. So normally that's not in there. This really was an office. So Alex is like, you know what? For this event, we need to put something in here. Let's put that Ascendo in here. That would be really cool. So they literally moved everything out of this office room for this event, for the and they're going to do this every year, he said. So that was it. What's that?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Were those sound panels in the back or those subwoofers in the back? The four 2x2 panels that look like?
Let me look here. Replay video. All right, let's do that. So right there, no, it literally was a cabinet because that joker was rattling like crazy. Yeah, this was not acoustic treatment. Like you can tell, this room is pretty hard surfaces.
Sure.
So acoustically, you look at that and go, man, this thing's got to sound like trash, dude. I'm telling you right now, that room was impressive. Mm-hmm. Now, could it sound better with acoustic treatment? 100%. But this was an office. They literally just converted this for, for this event. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. So much fun. Look forward to doing it again. Let's see. A couple more thoughts here, questions. Ender Robinson says, Jonathan, what do you keep the crossover set on your butt kickers?
Yeah, it's still work in progress. When I had the M-Wave guys here, it was at 42. I've since lowered it a little bit more. Now I have it at 37 with a 1/6 dB per octave roll-off slope, a Butterworth roll-off slope. And then on the back ones, I have them at 46 or 44 right now. I don't remember off the top of my head. But they're a little higher because they don't have the near-field sub. I am one that kind of likes the butt kickers to be cut off on the high frequencies, so you're only really reproducing the low frequencies, because I don't want that kind of buzzing feel that it creates. I want the wobble that it creates, like the big movement on the lowest frequencies. I don't really need them to be activating too much with music. I want it rolled off for music, but I want it with that explosion or with that meaty, real low bass to kind of help boost that bottom end feel, because the subwoofers will struggle. Even 818s will struggle in a big room to recreate that bottom 5 hertz, 10 hertz feel. And the tactile transducers, the butt kickers, really bring that into perspective.
So I want to throw this in the chat. Siphonics Audio, appreciate you being here. He says, kudos to everyone on the M-Wave success and the recent coverage of the Audio Vice live events. Really nice to get some insights. So I'm going to throw this up because he has been doing some really cool stuff on his channel and on his, especially his Facebook group. So I want to show you this. So, we're in the world of AI right now, and he's just been doing some really fun stuff. Check this out. So he's drawing up these speakers. Now, these are just concept speakers. Will they work as far as sound? He's mentioned on, his channel. He's like, look, I'm just having fun right now. I'm just trying to see what we can do with AI. So he's building all these speaker concept. I just think he's doing an awesome job, and they look really creative. And who knows, man, maybe in, a couple years, he may have his own line. So we might be hearing about Siphonics Audio, but check these out, man. But he's just having a blast. And I love seeing people get creative, using their gifts and abilities to have some fun, to help propel the space.
What's he doing with AI? You mentioned, is he asking AI to generate those different designs?
100%. So he's, again, I don't know what software he's using. I'm looking over here if he mentions it. He doesn't really say what software, but I know he's using like prompts. He posted a video not too long ago, and it may even be on his personal channel too. Let me scroll down just real quick, see if I see anything So this was at Audio Vice. I'm sorry, not Audio Vice Live. This was at the Atlanta Home Theater event. This was in one of the real high-end rooms. This was a beautiful setup. I mean, check that out. That was some really cool stuff. So it looks like Elite Marketing Dynamics was there. I was trying to see some more of his designs on here because I know he's been playing with this. He's just having a blast. You can probably find it on his Instagram as well. So this is Joseph here. Yeah, here's some more here. Look at these. Isn't that wild? Yeah, he's literally just asking AI and giving them prompts to create this. And it's just wild that, you know, AI can design and draw this up and just, you know, kind of visualize and think about how that could help our manufacturers too. You know, so when they're drawing up something, I mean, back in the day, they'd have to go into, you know, software and, yeah, so he's even having some fun with like people and just crazy stuff. So definitely, you know, show him some love. If you like the designs, go over there and, but I mean, he's going nuts. He's like, he's gone down that rabbit trail. So I imagine he just spends hours and hours just having fun but yeah, man, look at all those. Those are wild. But he's designed all these in AI. Oh, I guess he's using, here we go. Mid-Journey Prompts Designs. But yeah, pretty wild. Cool stuff, man. Let's see. Boom. All right. A couple more here. Got that. All right. Johnny says, question. I just checked. You're getting 2,700 lumens. The NZ8 getting 2,500 lumens. NZ7 only 2,200. That's great. How are your black levels with the Epson LS12000?
I'm going to make a video. I plan to do it. It'll probably be September timeframe where I'm going to be comparing the black levels between the NZ7 and the LS12000.
Cool.
Generally speaking, at dim, dark content, the JVC is the best in the business, at least in the consumer space, for the deep, dark content. However, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, if you have a very bright object, like say a moon and a star field at the same time on the screen at the same time, the Epson actually has objectively better contrast if there's something very bright and very black on the screen at the same time. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. The JVC will look a little bit more, my NZ7, my RS2100 model, will look a little bit more brown and a little bit more washed out than the Epson on very high contrast images. But on the scene like House of Dragons or The Expanse or something where it's real dim, JVC can't be beat. Not by Sony, not by Epson, not by anybody else. So you kind of pick. And as Michael mentioned earlier in the podcast, they have other characteristics a little different too. Sharpness is a little bit different. The motion's a little bit different. Gaming's very different. As far as those rated lumens too, 2,700 and 2,500 lumens, good luck telling the difference, really. There's not very much difference between those two numbers when you're sitting in front of them practically. And neither of them are going to be doing exactly that anyway. By the time you put a little bit of a calibration on them, they're both going to be down a little bit, and Epson probably down a little bit more than the JVC when you do a true calibration. That plays into the whole picture too. So I think Nick had said basically at M-Wave, when he had calibrated them both, they were almost identical, the Epson and the JVC, because the Epson lost a little bit more than the JVC in getting a full calibrated image. Now, I would argue with Nick a little bit on that I don't think you have to go to a perfect reference image, and you can save a little bit of lumens by not having a perfect calibrated image, and suits me fine, suits probably most people fine. Maybe you'd prefer having an extra 300 or 400 lumens over having a perfect reference image. I would. So there's all kinds of little caveats to that. The black levels in the end of the game are good enough, in my opinion, on the LS12000, but different people's opinions vary on that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things when you put them side by side, like at M-Wave, it's obvious, you know, certain projectors do a much better job at black levels. But when you have them, when you only have one in your setup, you're looking at it going, this is a gorgeous stinking image. So it's hard not to recommend the LS12000. It's a beautiful projector. It does very, very well. And like Jonathan said, it excels in certain things that JVC or Sony or BenQ, you know, there's no perfect projector out there. Even with the Christies, you know, I'm looking at a Barco projector at Audio Advice Live, and it's got a beautiful image. But at one point, I looked back to see if a window was open because it went real dark, but the screen was pretty bright. I'm going, what happened there? You know, so it didn't have really deep blacks. So even $100,000 projector can't do everything. So, but some of them do really, really well.
Johnny E, if you go to my YouTube channel and you look up JVC NZ7 versus Epson LS12000 on YouTube, you'll find 3 videos I've done. I've done one on motion, I've done one on sharpness, and I've done kind of a catch-all, and I'm going to do a black level one, and that will help you kind of see, hopefully. The trick is it's kind of hard to record because if you have, especially with that real deep, dark, dim image, if you're trying to record that on your phone, the automatic, I don't know, you can speak to this better than I can, Michael, because you know the terminology for camera speak, but basically it'll really blow out the lesser performer one on that dim dark stuff, so it'll look like it's absolutely awful, worse than it is in real life. So it's kind of hard to like make that a fair comparison, but I'll do the best I can.
When you're recording, you definitely have to. Do you use manual settings or auto?
No, in fact, I'm just using this iPhone 13 Pro, so it's not a fancy camera or anything. But
yeah, the hard thing when you're doing something like that is your camera's trying to adjust, like the ISO is trying to adjust the shutter speed and the aperture, and so it's trying to make the image bright enough so that you could see it, but it may not necessarily be what our eyes are seeing in the room. And so I always use, of course, I'm using a regular camera like this, a mirrorless, so I can set it on manual exposure, manual shutter speed, manual ISO, so that doesn't change. So there are some challenges, but I just dropped Jonathan's channel in the chat. Definitely show him some love. Maybe right click on it, open it up in a new tab. Go ahead and subscribe to him. Jonathan provides an incredible wealth of knowledge to the home theater community. Love what he does, love what he stands for. And I love his heart, man. He's just a great dude, great friend. So you can see here, he's got all kinds of videos. Which one were you talking about, Jonathan?
It's just those 3 that are right there present. Where it's got sharpness and motion and power on, image uniform, HDMI lock time. Like it's just kind of showing side by side in my room.
Nice.
With both of them, with both projectors calibrated, to how they compare, and you can kind of get a feel for it. And then, like I say, I'll add a black level one that I'm going to do in future, probably September timeframe.
Sure. Awesome, man. I love it. Yeah. Anything that we can do to just try to bring value to you guys and to help you when you're Jonathan's like me. We could care less what you buy with your money. We just want to try to provide you with enough information as objective as we can, and unbiased, that you can make the decision what's going to work best for you and your setup and your budget and what you're looking for. So Shampoo Time said he just subbed to Jonathan. Appreciate the love, man. That's awesome.
I don't have like the backlog that you're saying I do. A lot of my stuff originally was just like kind of fun videos, like an ATV trip or a river camping trip or something. I don't. Mine's not real dedicated home theater and historic view.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I'm heading in that direction. I kind of enjoy this, and it's been fun doing some of these other comparison videos and trying to go into a deep dive, hopefully a little bit more than a lot of advertising video type things. That's kind of my intent.
One thing that's kind of cool though too is think about how many questions come up in, let's say, in the AVS forum, and it's the same stinking question over and over and over. A lot of times that's what I make videos on. It's like, and then I just start posting the videos like, hey, here, go check out this video. I address that, and it's not to try to get more views. It's literally, it's just easier for me to send you a link to my video that I've spent exhaustive amount of time. Maybe it's a 5-minute video, a 10-minute video, a 30-minute video talking about the subject, and I can really deep dive. But imagine if you got to type that every single time. It gets tedious, man. It's a lot of time consumption. So to be able to send somebody to a video that you've done that answers questions, man, it definitely makes it, and just the community too, when you get those interactions about somebody says, hey, Jonathan, man, thanks so much for this video. That was super helpful to me. That means the world to us, man. I mean, it's really about the community. And that's what we're trying to do with this channel and this podcast, and also with M-Wave. We really, really, truly believe in friendships and relationships. And so we want to try to, build that up as much as possible.
So this is nice. Look at this comment by my friend Ryan.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
He's local Kansas City. You know, Ryan, I don't know anything about that camera, but if you think I trust your expertise. I know this is your area. So if you think that'd be a good match, let's do it. I think that might work a lot better than the iPhone and really get the comparison made available to look good enough for people to make a decision online.
And it'd be something, I mean, throw him on camera too, man. Y'all have some fun with it and just have a discussion about what are you seeing visually in person? Because like you said, sometimes we can't always capture it on film, but explaining what we're seeing or what we're hearing while we're showing it definitely just provides value to the home theater community. So,
and Ryan is going to have one of the most epic theaters you'll probably ever see, like one for the books when he's done with the film.
Yeah, all right. You got to reach out, man.
His name is Chirpy on the forums, on AVS forum, and he's building one that's going to be just one for the books.
Well, here's the thing. We've got, I mean, there's no doubt y'all have enough home theaters up there that I'm definitely got to do another tour up there sometime, man, because there's just so much fun going on in Kansas City. Y'all are like the home theater mecca. He said he's working on it now. Super cool, man. I'm excited for you. Yeah, he said it's full frame mirrorless that can shoot RAW if needed. Yeah. So I use a Canon M6. Well, actually, I'm sorry, that's a Canon M6. I use a R6 on the other one. That's a full frame. That one's not full frame that I'm using for live streaming. Fun stuff, man. Well, cool, guys. Well, we are right at about 2 hours, so we're going to wrap it up here. Jonathan, I appreciate you, man. This is always fun. Like I said, guys, me and Ryan are going to do, and Jonathan, you're welcome to join us, but you're like,
I'll probably pass on that since I don't have any experience. I'd just be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. So, but Ryan and I are going to share our experience of Atlanta Home Theater. We just came back from that. You can check out my personal Facebook. I've already posted some photos there. You can just go to facebook.com/youthman. But I've got a couple video clips from it. I've got some photos, and I'll continue to add there as well. I try to post a little bit everywhere. Some on my personal Facebook, some on Instagram, some on. It's just really all over the place, though. Dandy show once again. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that, Tyler. It's always fun getting you guys here and just hanging out and just sharing our passion for home theater, movies, music, and all that fun stuff. So, guys, I hope you all have an incredible week. I got lots more videos, several from Audio Advice Live. I've got a few from M-Wave I still need to edit. I've got new reviews. Like I said, I've got a Shure VTF 15-inch subwoofer that just came in, so I need to review that. I've got the Martin Logan whole series, Ascendo, not Ascendo. Oh my goodness, I just drew a blank. Oh man, you can tell it's been a long couple days, long couple weeks. Arendal. So they're sending me, I think they're sending me several speakers and some of their subwoofers. So you'll be seeing more of that on the channel. They are one of my platinum channel sponsors, so super grateful for their support and their love for the channel. But yeah, man, lots of content coming. I'm just going to crank it out as fast as I can because, like I said, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Newbies and then up in Illinois. And then 2 weeks after that, I'll be at Cedia and I'll be making about 8 or 10 videos at Cedia covering different booths. So should be a lot of fun. So, all right, man, y'all have a great week. We'll catch you in the next video.
Very good. Thanks, fellas.